Charlie the cat and his owner, Jason Smith, were reunited after a long 7-year separation, a reunion that unfolded unexpectedly before several shelter volunteers, moving everyone to tears. Time seemed to stand still as Jason, breathless with emotion, saw the worn-out ginger cat with once bright amber eyes in a cramped cage. Those present couldn't hide their trembling voices and tears as they witnessed the man and animal, separated by years of wandering, find each other again. But to understand the magnitude of their separation and the preciousness of their reunion, we need to go back 12 years to the beginning of this incredible story. An unexpected gift and the birth of friendship. 12 years ago, in the quiet town of Oakville, Jason celebrated his 25th birthday with his family. He'd long dreamed of a pet, but life and work, as is often the case, prevented him from getting a cat or dog. His sister, Linda, knew of his desire and decided to give him a gift that changed the fate of two beings. On a warm, sunny morning, Linda quietly entered Jason's home with a tiny ball of ginger fur. This nearly weightless bundle with enormous amber eyes became Charlie. From the first moment, something special hung in the air. When the kitten opened its eyes and looked at Jason, a spark seemed to jump between them, instantly connecting them with an invisible thread. Jason named his new friend Charlie, after his beloved grandfather, who had been so dear to him in childhood. This symbolic gesture further strengthened their bond. Life together in Oakville. Years flew by, each day filled with touching moments and domestic comfort. Jason, an accountant at a local firm, returned each evening to his home on the outskirts of Oakville, where his ginger friend awaited him. Charlie, as if sensing his owner's approach, always met him at the door, impatiently wagging his fluffy tail. Life seemed peaceful, though Jason had his worries. He spent long hours with reports and numbers, but after work, he always found time to play with his cat, tossing a ball, stroking his silky fur, or simply talking. To everyone's surprise, Charlie seemed to talk back. He made funny sounds, responding to Jason's remarks, and sometimes it sounded like a real conversation. This idyllic life continued for a long time. Charlie filled Jason's life with meaning, brightening his days, and Jason treated his furry friend not just as a pet, but as a full-fledged member of the family. The moment that changed everything. One day, as spring's warmth arrived, tragedy struck, turning Jason's world upside down. On that fateful day, he took Charlie into the backyard, where a small garden thrived. The cat loved to play among the lush grass and explore rustling leaves under the trees. Jason tried to keep him in sight, but fate intervened. A phone call interrupted. A commonplace situation, repeated daily in thousands of homes, turned into a catastrophe. Distracted for just a moment, Jason lost sight of Charlie. When the call ended, the spot where Charlie had been playing was empty. His beloved pet, his friend, had vanished. He had simply disappeared, leaving behind an agonizing feeling of anxiety. Jason immediately searched the yard and surrounding streets, calling Charlie again and again, his heart sinking with a growing sense of dread. The cat didn't respond. An hour passed, then another, stretching into endless days. Jason put up posters, asked passers-by, called shelters, all to no avail. Charlie had vanished. Time and pain. It's hard to describe the emotional turmoil Jason endured in the weeks, months, and years that followed. He felt helpless, as if he'd lost a part of himself. Every morning, getting ready for work, he looked at Charlie's empty food bowl and winced, realizing his cat hadn't returned. Friends and colleagues tried to support him, but Jason became increasingly withdrawn. The loss had changed him. He became sadder, smiled less, and his gaze often clouded with memories of his ginger cat. Though time passed, Charlie's image, like an invisible shadow, followed Jason. Months turned into years. Desperate searches yielded no results, online ads, calls to shelters, even a private investigator specializing in missing pets, all ended in failure. Charlie was nowhere to be found. People, seeing Jason's suffering, advised him to get a new pet, but he refused. It would feel like a betrayal, like giving up on his friend. A turning point, relocation and a new life. 7 years after Charlie's disappearance, Jason's life took another sharp turn. He received a promotion, requiring a move to a larger city about 100 miles from his quiet hometown of Oakville. This decision was difficult. He knew it would extinguish any lingering hope of seeing Charlie again. In his new city, Jason tried to distract himself from his past, immersing himself in work and new hobbies and acquaintances. But he couldn't forget his beloved cat, and every time he saw a ginger cat or the silhouette of a cat in an alley, his heart ached, and Charlie's image filled his mind. Volunteering and an inner calling. One day, browsing the local newspaper, Jason came across an article about volunteers helping homeless animals. Something inside him responded, a quiet but powerful voice of conscience and love. It felt as if Charlie was guiding him, pointing the way. Jason didn't hesitate, he signed up as a volunteer. Now, in addition to his office job, he cared for cats and dogs in shelters. He washed bowls, fed hungry animals, and put up posters for lost pets. Each time he stroked a stray ginger kitten, Jason remembered Charlie and wondered if something similar had happened to him. A fateful encounter. One day, a worn-out old cat, found on the street in terrible condition, was brought to the vet by volunteers. Jason was helping at the shelter when the staff rushed in with a carrier containing a frail animal. The cat had matted, dull fur, one ear was almost completely torn, and its gaze expressed utter exhaustion and distrust of the world. The vet concluded that the cat was very old and sick, with little chance of recovery. Euthanasia was even mentioned to avoid prolonging the animal's suffering. Before making that decision, an assistant decided to check for a microchip, rarely done with strays. A miracle happened, the scanner detected a microchip. As the data was read, Jason froze, almost dropping his folder. It was Charlie, his Charlie, whom he hadn't seen in 7 long years. The news spread through the room, and the volunteers looked at a stunned Jason. Without hesitation, he rushed to the cage, overwhelmed with emotion. The cat looked worn out, its eyes dimly gleaming. But when Jason spoke his name, Charlie's ears twitched, and a spark of recognition flashed in his eyes. The memory of his owner's voice proved stronger than years of separation. Tears and homecoming. The moment Jason opened the cage door and reached out to his lost friend was incredibly moving. Charlie struggled to his feet and, swaying, took a few steps toward Jason's hand. Then, as if recognizing the hand as safe and familiar, he pressed against it, emitting a raspy but unmistakable purr. The volunteers, men and women, wiped away tears, understanding that a true reunion of 2 loving hearts was taking place. The paperwork seemed to take forever. Jason was impatient, knowing that every minute Charlie spent in the cage was a minute too long. Finally, the formalities were completed, and Jason took his faithful friend home. The vet warned that Charlie was old, with multiple health problems and weakened health, requiring meticulous care, medication, regular checkups, a special diet. Jason didn't hesitate, saying he would do anything for Charlie. As they crossed the threshold, memories of their former comfort materialized in the air. Jason had prepared a soft bed and placed Charlie's old favorite toys nearby. The first few days were difficult. Charlie often fell on his side from weakness, barely ate, and his purr sounded raspy and painful rather than affectionate. But Jason, taking time off work, stayed by his side, carefully feeding him special food, giving him medication, and talking softly, assuring him everything would be all right. A gift of new life. After a couple of weeks, Charlie was clearly improving. He gained weight, his fur began to shine, and his purr regained its familiar warmth, the per Jason remembered from their carefree life in Oakville. Everyone who saw Charlie get up and slowly approach Jason for affection understood that this amazing return to life was a testament to the genuine love between man and animal, enduring time and distance. It seemed that with Charlie's return, Jason himself found a new lease on life. He smiled more, was less sad, and even his co-workers noticed a newfound radiance. Jason continued volunteering at the shelter, with even greater enthusiasm, sharing his miraculous reunion with Charlie. He encouraged people not to lose hope, because their lost pet might be struggling somewhere, waiting for their help. Around this time, a woman named Catherine, a fellow animal-loving volunteer, entered Jason's life. She became a frequent visitor to Jason's home, and Charlie, sensing her kindness, readily accepted her affection. It seemed the cat approved of her presence, as if telling his owner, "You found a worthy person to share your life with." Conclusion: love transcending obstacles. Now every evening, Jason sat on the sofa, and Charlie, purring, nestled on his lap. Jason reflected on the long years of separation, the bitter search, sleepless nights, the disheartening move, and the unexpected rescue of his beloved pet. How many times had he thought Charlie was gone, only to be granted a second chance by fate? They had overcome many trials and lost much time, but the remaining time together was filled with a special, tender meaning. Watching Charlie happily play with new toys and lazily stretch on his soft bed, Jason rejoiced in every day they spent together. A quiet peace settled over him, the past pain receding, leaving only gratitude for his present happiness. This wonderful reunion, after 7 years, reunited man and cat, binding them more strongly than ever before. No distance or twists of fate could break the invisible thread of love and loyalty that connected Jason and his ginger Charlie for life.